Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of a Millennial's Guide to Real Estate Investing. Today I have Kent Clothier on the podcast. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast today.
Yeah, man, my pleasure. Great to be here.
Absolutely. So first of all, let's just start with a little bit about your story, how you started investing in real estate, and when you got started. I know you had, another wholesaling business before in another industry. So just tell us a little bit for a couple minutes about you and who you are.
Yeah. So as you alluded to, I started when I was 17 in a completely different industry, a business that my father and I ran based out of Memphis, Tennessee. That was an arbitrage business. We were basically wholesaling truckloads of grocery items. So an entire truckload of Maxwell House coffee or Peter Pan or Bounty toilet tissue or toilet paper. It didn't really matter. The bottom line is that we would find items in certain markets where manufacturers were selling them at a discount, and we would turn around and buy them in mass, multiple truckloads at a time, and then ship them around the country where the manufacturer wasn't selling them at a discount to, in grocery stores. And so that little business that I started with my father back then, by the time I was 23, I was doing $50 million a year. By the time I was 27, I was running, an $800 million a year company. I actually had our company had been purchased, so I moved to a much larger organization down in Boca Raton, Florida. And so by the time I was 30, I was, after running that business for 3 years, we were doing almost $2 billion a year. And so my 20s and were a lot different than most, right? I was kind of wound up in a very different experience that seemed perfectly natural to me at the time. But clearly, now that I've gotten a little older, running a $2 billion a year company is not something that happens every day. But it taught me, a lot. And ultimately, I was way too cocky and confident for my own good. My partners in that business and I had a run in. I ultimately left that business on March 14th of 2000. 30 years old, thought I still had the world by the balls and it was going to be great. And over the course of the next 2 years, made a ton of really bad leadership and management and business decisions. Ultimately, was trying to build a competitor business in that industry at the expense of my prior. And so that ended up being a disaster. And so over 2 years, I lost everything. And so ultimately, that's how I got into real estate. It's because I had nowhere else to turn. I'm a product of one of those late night infomercials that many people have seen over the years. I was just desperate enough that I went down in West Palm Beach, Florida, to the Embassy Suites in downtown and sat in that seat and listened to somebody talk about real estate wholesaling. I'd never even heard what that was before. But again, my back was against the wall. I'd burnt every bridge in the previous industry. There was no turning back. And I had to do something. I was 100% unemployable. I knew I could never work for anybody. Mm-hmm. And so I kind of gravitated towards wholesaling, got involved, did my first deal in 30 days. My first year, I did 91 deals, made over $1 million. So I got really good at it really quick. But the single biggest challenge in that business when I got into it is that there was no automation. There was no systems. There was nobody that actually even ran it like a business. It was very entrepreneurial, very hustle mode, if you will, what we would say today, getting in there, grinding, go do your deals and get the hell out. Yeah. And so I knew if I wanted, now I had gotten remarried and had a new little girl on the way. And so if I knew if I wanted to actually have a life and be able to spend time the right way, I needed to put systems and processes and people in place. And so we started doing that, and that blew up into a really big business that today now flips over 900 properties a year, manages over 6,200 properties for our investors. We're in 7 markets around the country. But it also kind of led me to my passion, because while all that's going on and I have nothing to do with the actual flipping of houses anymore at all in that business, I still, I'm still a part of the business, but I don't actually have to flip or do any of it. I get to go and focus on what I really became passionate about, which is along the way, a lot of people asked me how the hell we had done what we had done, how the hell we had built what we had built. And that kind of took me into the education and software and training space. And so now I run a really large organization that, it's helped over 65,000 people around the country learn how to flip houses. We built all the software from the ground up that didn't exist back in the day. There's a lot of that software out there today, but when we built it, we were the first.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's been a hell of a ride, man. It's been, Been a long ride, but a great ride.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, you guys have a great story too, and I share a couple of key things too, like working with family as well. So I was still in college when I started working with my dad and learning about real estate and real estate investing, and started flipping the houses out of state too. So there's also the whole family dynamic as well. But so you started wholesaling when you were in West Palm Beach, did 100 deals your first year, took that cash, and then when did you start? Because were you born and raised in Memphis? Grew up in Memphis?
I grew up in Memphis. I was born and raised in Dallas, and then I moved to Memphis when I was 16.
Got it. Okay. So then you started doing the wholesaling thing, and then when was Memphis Invest born? Like, how did you guys start that? Was it just a natural progression of?
It was a natural progression, but not like necessarily the way most people would think. Our family dynamic at that particular time wasn't the greatest, right? My father and I, because of the experience that I'd had and how far I had run in the grocery industry, there was a certain our communication wasn't great. So I'm down in Florida flipping houses. I had no idea my father was in Memphis, Tennessee, flipping houses at the exact same time because we weren't even speaking. And ironically, my younger brother was in Denver, Colorado, flipping houses.
Oh, wow.
And so what started happening is that what I got really, really good at, the concept that I come up with, the whole reverse wholesaling, I was really good at creating a ton of buyers who had a lot of money and they wanted to invest. And so we started realizing that we were better together than apart. We could provide a lot more value to our buyers. And they could get a much bigger bang for the buck if we took buyers from Florida and buyers from Colorado and brought them to Memphis. Because, down where I was, I could buy a reasonable flip that I was doing at that time. A wholesale deal was $300,000 or $400,000. Well, in Memphis, Tennessee, I could buy a $75,000 house that was great, that cash flowed. And so it just was all about our buyers. Our buyers wanted more value, so we started bringing them in. As we started bringing them in, we quickly started understanding that we did not have the systems and processes in place to make them come back and buy on a continual basis. So our buyers that we were selling to, they wanted, next thing they want to do is potentially rehab a property or find a property manager. All the things that were kind of the friction that they were going through that was preventing them from rebuying was problematic for us. And so over the course of several years, we started developing those systems. It was, all right, we got to have rehab company in place. Now we have to have a property management company in place. And before you knew it, we had built the first quote unquote turnkey operation out there. And then in doing that, that became much more valuable to not only the people we were currently selling to, but now we started taking it to the world. And everybody's like, well, wait a minute. I can buy an investment property in Memphis, Tennessee, that's going to make me 12% a year and I don't have to do anything. That became a new value prop for us. So it happened organically, but it happened out of one very specific thing. How do we make the customer come back and buy? Right. Which is extremely, if you're trying to build a repeatable business, the easiest customer you'll ever sell is the one you've already sold.
Yep.
So just make it really easy for them to come back and do business again.
Yep, 100%. And so at what point did you guys realize that you needed to, because we're still using third-party property management companies and just vetting them ourselves and building a system with those third-party property management companies. So at what point did you guys realize, like, holy shit, was it because the property management companies you were referring out were like impeding those people from coming and buying back, and then you're like, we need to just take control of this? And
I can tell you, my brothers and my father, we all get it naturally. We get it from my father naturally, but we're all kind of control freaks. In other words, if somebody is going to blame us for a customer service challenge in their business, we'd rather be the ones that are actually responsible for delivering the service, right? And so we did it that way for a long time, the way you're, outsourcing things. But the reality of it is that we've just come to appreciate that our quality assurance mechanisms and what we believe is the right way to do is very, very different than almost any vendor out there, right? And what we expect from a customer service standpoint is head and shoulders above what anybody else will provide. So it became a natural, and by the way, it wasn't just property management. It was in every area of our business, right?
Yeah.
We needed to be in control of the contractors. We need to be in control of our vendors. We need to be in control of the maintenance calls. We need to be in control of everything, because then if I'm going to take the bullet, at least I'm going to control the bullet, right? And so, and what happened again, that became a huge value prop for us, right? When we added the clothier element to it, that, oh my God, my father was raised in the grocery industry. So, and he was raised at a time where it was, every customer had their groceries bagged, and every customer, you took them out to the car. And he took a ton of pride in providing that exceptional service. And so that has just kind of manifested itself in every business we've ever done, including these.
Yeah. And I think also and that's why you guys have grown so fast too, like over, the last 10, 20 years, is because also just the referrals. So like even for us, which is small, doing 100 homes a year, like 80% of our clients come from referrals, from word of mouth, from repeat business referrals. And so if you're controlling the entire process and giving like the customer service that you guys, are giving to your clients, then they're going to continue to come back. And then you don't have to spend so much money on the marketing, or pushing or trying to convince people to buy your product. And, it's the repeat business was a huge factor for us, and just the word of mouth and doing small little things that nobody else would do, on sending birthday presents to clients, following up after they purchase and saying, hey, did you like it? What didn't you like? What can we fix? What can't we fix? Like just improving your process so they continue to come back.
Makes a huge difference. And, I've said this on probably countless podcasts and trainings over the years, but where people get hung up on this, and I'll share this with the audience, is that, look, the stuff we're talking about is not that hard. What you have to realize and appreciate, it's an ocean of mediocrity. People are being programmed and desensitized to, they don't expect, common courtesy, little things, thank yous. They don't expect that kind of stuff. So think about when your customer has been dumbed down by your competition and desensitized to not expect, just normal, really good service. How hard is it to be great? It's not that hard. Right. To your point, sending a thank you card, sending a birthday gift, or, saying happy anniversary, what little things all of a sudden add up to big results because nobody else will.
Yep. 100%. And then, so I have a question too, because I think I saw you on another podcast a couple years back, and I think you guys were doing, I don't think you guys were doing 900 homes a year. I think you were doing, a much lower number. So and I see that you guys also have expanded into many different markets very quickly. And so have you guys gone and, acquired small shop turnkey companies, small shop property management companies, gave them your whole system and model and helped them blow up? Or is it?
Everything we've started, we grew it from the ground up. Never acquired one thing like that. And definitely not that. We've sent our teams out and relocated members of our team to go and move into these cities. But in no cases have we actually grown through acquisition.
Yeah, because I was thinking about that too for myself. Like if I wanted to move into, go and acquire some small shop turnkey business and then put your systems.
And by the way, let me take a step back. Let me clarify the statement. I'm not against it at all. There's if the price is right and I can get a deal and put it together, I love the strategy, but directly to what we have done, we have not been able to do that so far.
Yeah. Awesome. Cool. Yeah, that was just one of my many questions, because we're trying to scale as well, and we feel like we have a good system, a good model, a good way to find deals, to manage the construction, to sell it, and then you have the repeat business coming in and in. It's just like, okay, but how? And I saw you guys expanding to many different markets, and I was like, holy shit, how are they doing this so fast and managing all those different processes and people, and when you do expand.
I think what you said a mouthful, right? it is. If you have good processes and systems in place and you have good people in place, then expansion is a natural progression that happens. If you don't, then it'll be the death of your business. It's very simple. You have no business trying to expand if you don't have your core business humming along and just wildly dialed in.
Yeah.
And so that's. The answer is not always expansion. Expansion will come very naturally to you when you have really good processes, and you can point to any part of your business on any given day at any moment in that day and understand exactly what's going on. Then you're probably in the right. And by the way, even when that happens, you're still going to make mistakes when you go into a city, right? They're just not going to hurt as bad.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Yeah, and I think there was even because I think we've tried to go into St. Louis, for example, and then you have to deal with, like every market has its own little unique nuances, right? So St. Louis has the municipality, or I forget what they're called. They're like prairie. There's like 80 municipalities. Each of them gets to make their own rules and shit like that. And it was like, my God, I have to follow. If I buy this house at this address and I buy another
Right.
house 2 blocks away, I have to follow two different sets of rules. And one of
Right.
them has a inspection clause on move-in. One of them has an inspection clause on acquisition. It's like, Jesus Christ, I need a whole list of documentation about, addresses and where they are and, what processes, because my process changed no matter where the house is now.
100%. Yeah, you got to be able to pivot. Yep, for sure.
100%. Okay, so the turnkey business, and then so it seems like you have since left that company, which is now REINation, and now you're doing real estate worldwide. When did you leave that and start the education business? When did you go and start the education, the coaching, and when did you start doing all that kind of stuff?
So back in 2008, while the recession is happening, 2009 really, a lot of people were paying attention to the fact that we were continuing to grow so dynamically. Yeah. And the reason we were growing is because we were dealing almost exclusively with cash buyers. We did not need the banks, and while all of our competitors needed banks, ultimately, I should say, the people they were selling properties to needed banks. We just didn't, and so a lot of people were pulling on me in particular, trying to figure out what in the hell was going on. How are you doing this? And so I had created, through my team, I had created a piece of software that was doing all of this kind of automatically for us. And before I knew it, that were interested in purchasing and accessing that software, that right time, right place, right moment, kind of put a product out there called Find Cash Buyers Now that automated finding buyers in any market. Nobody had ever seen anything like it before. And it exploded, right? I mean, millions and millions of dollars, tens of thousands of people bought it. A lot of people saved their business. A lot of people got them into the business. And so that was kind of the first foray. Once we realized, what we do, what I do is unique. And so from there, I created a product that basically did the same thing, except it would go and find privately all the private lenders in the market, right? The people that were actually, we could tell through real data at the county courthouse that these are people that are loaning money, and effectively automate the way that you communicate with them.
Yeah.
A few years later, we did the same thing with vacant properties. And again, the easiest way to know that you're doing something right is a lot of people will start to go and kind of create their own versions of it. So, it makes me really happy to see that things that we created from the ground up have now, in the last 10 years kind of become very normal. If somebody's getting involved in real estate today, they would have to look for about 5 minutes and find softwares that do these same types of things now.
Yeah.
And so that makes me really proud that we started all that, right? And it's kind of evolved. But so through that, I started realizing that kind of connecting dots for people and making this process easy and showing people that, there is a simple way to get involved in a business, and that I'm a pretty hardcore guy. I can break stuff down for people, but kind of my gift is kind of reaching into an entrepreneur and letting them know that, right into their soul, and waking them up and showing them in a pretty straightforward way, do this, do this, do this, and you're going to get the result. And so I got pretty passionate about building a business, not only that did software, but did the trainings to show people how to do that. And so that business was born in 2009. Fast forward, here we are going in our 12th year. Had tens of thousands of people come through our systems and our process. Tens of thousands of people access our software every day. It's been a great ride. I'm still involved with REINation, but what I am passionate about, what I live and breathe every single day, is exactly what I talked about. That whole entrepreneurial side of it, that people get conned into believing this should be difficult. And the reality of it is if you understand a few steps and you follow a few processes, this is very doable for just about anybody.
Yeah, 100%. And so what do you think with the whole coronavirus going on? What are your thoughts? So it seems like you have education about wholesaling, flipping houses, and then is there any kind of mindset or entrepreneurial mindset in those courses too in education?
Oh yeah. Probably, I would argue that more than half of the education, because it's the foundation of everything, right? If your head's not right,
Yeah.
I don't care how great the tactics and strategies are. If you don't have what's going on in between your ears dialed in, you're never
Yeah.
going to implement. So we have our online courses, certification courses that people can take. We have all of there's 11 different curriculums in there. We have our smart software that does everything. We have our private coachings, and we have our mastermind called the Boardroom Mastermind, which has a couple hundred people in it. Mindset and understanding how to turn it into a business and not a hustle is something I'm extremely, dialed in on.
Yeah.
And have been successful at, right? I have the right to talk about it because I've actually done it, right?
Yep.
And so, I mean, it's when you can help somebody kind of take something, a concept that they just believe is difficult,
Yeah.
and you can break it down and make it real for them. That's a pretty cool feeling, dude. And so that's what I love. I love doing for people.
I mean, there's a lot of wholesalers out there, people that just don't have any system at all. So like I know a couple guys that wholesale me deals in Cleveland. They do a couple a month, and I'm like, how are you tracking all this shit? They're like, oh, I have an Excel spreadsheet and like a Google sheet, and he's doing everything himself, and he's doing 100 homes a year by himself. I'm like, holy shit, man! Like, just imagine that one guy with a system in place, with team members, or they can be VAs.
I'll go back to the comment you made earlier. The reason that doesn't happen is because of what's going on between their ears.
Between their head.
100%, right?
Yeah.
When somebody doesn't value their own time, right, then they get caught in the trap of trading time for money. Yeah. But when you put such a high value on time and understand that, man, I don't get any one of these moments back. I don't get any one of these days back. I would rather go and create a business. I'll just spend every minute of every day that's possible to do whatever the hell I want to do, which means basically doesn't mean I'm not working. It just means I have the option of not working. Yeah. Right? I'm gonna get paid the same amount today, whether you and I do a podcast or not. Right? That's the bottom line. And in a lot of cases, I'm probably gonna get paid more because I'm not involved, quite frankly, because I have such rock stars around me. And when you place such a high value on time, you're just like, man, I just want to design and create something that allows me to actually enjoy life. Because what I definitely don't want to do is I definitely don't want to be the 65-year-old guy who has been running up and down the streets for 30 years flipping houses and is looking up and like, man, I made a shit ton of money, but I don't have much of it left. I work my ass up to the bone. My kids don't know me. My wife doesn't know me. I'm the right. You accomplished exactly what? And nothing, right? Yeah. I mean, so the whole point is with a guy like that, it's like, dude, if you'll just place such a high value on your time, then what you will do is get excited about as buying as much back of it as you can. I want to buy as many hours of the day back as I can. So I got to put systems, people, processes, automation, things that'll just, to your point, track every deal, automate every deal, create the whole thing where it just happens on autopilot. Holy shit, that's when life gets good. Yeah. Because your 100 turns into 200, right? Yeah. And you with no more effort on your part.
Yep. 100%. Do you guys have any kind of CRM, or do you guys provide that system? Let's say there is a wholesaler who is doing 10, 20, 30 deals. Do you guys have an education or even provide a CRM system or a customized thing?
We do not provide a CRM. We integrate with CRMs, and we have preferred partners that we push people to, right? So we have an in-house team that uses the Podio platform and has built all the workspaces custom for our clients. And so basically we hand a client, here's a customized workspace just for you. It has all the integrations already built in it, all the follow-up. You don't have to do anything, right? Just go. But I don't own it. It's a service I provide to my clients because it's the right thing to do, right? Yep. And it completely integrates with the dialers and the ringless voicemail and the text blasting and the direct mail. So all of that automation is just baked into the deal. Yep. So that, again, all you're doing is compressing time. I mean, just think about how many hours in a month are spent on dumb shit like that, that a system will work 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for you, and I'll never bitch or complain or do anything, right? Just let it roll. So,
100%. Love it. And so with the virus, going back to my other question, with the virus going on, what do you think about real estate wholesaling now? Do you think it's better? It's even more important? Do you think there's even more deals to be had?
For really good wholesalers, it will be one of the single greatest opportunities that have ever hit their market, without question. I mean, and you have to keep in mind, I see it from multiple levels. I see what goes on in our own business. I see what goes on for thousands of my customers, and clearly from my mastermind folks that I spend a ton of time with. And there's two phenomenons that are happening that are just very common sense when you just take a step back. You have had people, high net worth individuals that have been locked out of the market for the last 5 years, right? Sitting on mountains and mountains of cash, collectively billions of dollars. And they do not want to buy because they're kind of buying at the top of the market. The market's been white hot, right?
Yep.
So now they're sitting there like, oh, this is my chance. The distressed inventory is coming, right? I know it's coming. You can't lay 30 million people off and there not be some level of distress that eventually is going to hit the housing market. So they're just sitting here waiting. And so there's basically three levels of cash buyers. You got that level, which if it's like a pyramid, that's the bottom of the pyramid, which is the biggest pool of cash buyers that are sitting out there. Millions of people that I just described right there. There's millions of those people, and they represent billions of dollars, right? They are going to start rushing into the market, and they already have started rushing into the market, trying to pick up properties at a discount.
Yeah.
That second tier is guys like us, right? We're a little more reserved, and we're in the business, but we clearly understand some opportunities are coming, right? And we're just kind of waiting, right? And then you got that top tier, which are the real institutional buyers, the iBuyers, the big boys and girls, that are all backed by billions and billions of dollars in private equity and private funding. That they understand the same thing. Like they're going to have a rare chance here for 12, 18 months to and it's predicated on acquiring a ton of property, each and every year, thousands. So you have all this huge demand that is just over the course of the next 6 to 18 months is just going to flood the market. Well, on the other side, and by the way, this is the reason why in real time, as we're recording this, prices have stayed up. I don't know if you saw the recent statistics, but prices actually stayed up. Sales were down, but prices were up. Well, that happens because the distressed inventory hasn't hit the market yet, but the buyer activity already has, right? Buyer activity already came in, and so it kept the prices. Now, once the distressed inventory hits the market, now you have compression on the price and the buyers coming in. And any smart wholesaler out there in the world today that can hear my voice should be doing only one thing. Sitting there and marketing as aggressively as humanly possible to every single buyer in the market. You want to have all of them in your back pocket, ready to buy. Because if you've got that, you will never be broke. Because the distressed inventory, that phenomenon is inevitable. It is definitely coming, right? Yeah. But being able to have 10 or 12 really strong cash buyers representing tens of millions in your back pocket is going to be a massive benefit.
Yeah, 100%. Really quickly, so it seems like you were just describing the reverse wholesaling. Can you describe that for the people that maybe don't know what that is? So what is reverse wholesaling? Because you just kind of hinted at it as well.
Yeah, so wholesaling clearly is going and getting a property under contract and effectively flipping that contract to an end buyer, right? And it's the way that every guru in the world has ever taught it. We've all made money doing it at some level. It definitely works, but I don't believe, and I don't subscribe to the theory of, and I say all the time, hope is not a strategy, right? So I don't go put a property under contract and hope I'm going to get it sold. It's just never going to happen. I grew a grocery industry, a business from 800 million to 1.8 billion using one concept. And that when we were buying and selling groceries, effectively a retailer would call us and say, I have 20 trucks of Maxwell House coffee. Well, they called me and 6 other guys. And so the 6 guys are all competing for the same 20 trucks. And by the way, we're all calling effectively the same 100 people to try to sell it, right? So it's a race to zero. Who's going to pay the most on the buy side? Who's going to sell it for the cheapest on the sell side? Okay. And so, it took a 27-year-old kid that was kind of fed up with that shit to say, how about we just go do this? How about we just go ask every single retailer and wholesaler in the country, if I could sell you anything in the grocery store at any price you wanted me to sell it to you, deliver it on any day you wanted and in any quantity, what would you buy from me? And suddenly the floodgates open. Every major retailer and wholesaler in the country is now sending in effectively blank orders saying, I want Gillette blades, I want Wonder Bread, just tell us, if you can get this stuff at this price, I'll buy it for this, this quantity and bring it to me on this day. And so our job became infinitely easier because now all we had to do was just go backwards. We basically just started going to all the suppliers and backing in, taking our profit, our shipping, everything out of it and say, they want to buy it for 30. So if I can buy it from you for 20 and pick it up on this day, I know this deal is done. Reverse wholesaling is the exact same concept, just in real estate. And it's the reason why we're able to go and flip, hundreds and hundreds of properties. It's because while all of our competitors are going and putting random shit under contract and then running up and down the street and blasting it on an email list or a text list and looking like clowns, we are out there only working with cash buyers who we clearly know through public record have already paid cash for properties. We know exactly what they bought. We're nurturing and building relationships with them and basically saying, if I could deliver any house to you in any neighborhood at any price, as many as you want, what do you want? Yep. And so then the only thing we go and create is that.
Yep. 100%.
So
love it.
Whole process is just easier.
Yep. Love it. Yeah. Great description for sure. So with that, what is in store for Kent for the next 10 years? What's your goals? What are you trying to accomplish? What do you see and what do you see yourself doing for the next 10 years?
I'm like I said earlier, I'm kind of living my perfect day right now. I'm very fortunate. I live in a beautiful house directly on the Pacific Ocean. I get to walk or skateboard to my office every day out here in La Jolla, California. I live a really great life and get to help a lot of people along the way.
Love it.
So my hope would be to get to exactly what I'm doing right now. I'm definitely wired a little different. I am definitely blissfully dissatisfied is the way I would describe it. I'm extremely grateful, but I'm also, know that there's a lot more out there and there's a lot more we can do to continue to push the industry forward. I enjoy the role of being a thought leader in the industry and pushing people ahead. So I definitely think there's a lot of opportunity in continuing to remove some of the minutia out of a real estate transaction. And I think there's a lot of things that can happen there and that will happen there to kind of streamline real estate over the course of the next 10 years that it won't be very long, brother. We'll be buying and selling houses right from our phone we're well on our way. And I'm, behind the scenes been really pushing to make a lot of that stuff happen and we'll continue to push. It's what I'm really passionate about.
Love it. And how can people get in touch with you after the show, or how can they get in touch with you, learn more about you?
Yeah.
So some of your courses.
The easiest way to reach out to me is just go to Kent Clothier on Instagram or Kent Clothier on Facebook, or just hit me up at kentclothier.com.
Love it. Awesome. Thanks for coming on the show today. It was really great having you, and been following you again, like I said, for the last couple of years, and so it's really awesome to have you on the show today.
Hey man, it's my pleasure, dude. Hit me up anytime if I can help you. See ya.
Sounds good. See ya.
Bye.